The spaceport of Nova Haven was always busy. Ships came and went at all hours, carrying goods, passengers, and stories from all over the galaxy. It was a place full of noise, lights, and endless activity. Ron liked it quiet, but that was not easy to find here. Ron was a trader, a simple man who owned a small cargo ship called the Star Sparrow. He had spent most of his life traveling between planets, carrying supplies and sometimes rare goods. He was known for being calm, careful, and honest. He liked his routine and wanted nothing more than to finish this last trip and go home for some rest. He stood near his ship, checking the cargo list one more time. The Star Sparrow was ready to leave, and the crew had already left for the next assignment. Ron was going to pilot the ship alone this time. It was safer that way, or at least he thought so. Suddenly, he heard a voice behind him. "You're Ron, right?" He turned and saw a woman standing there. She looked confident, with sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and her clothes were simple but practical, made for space travel. "That's me," Ron said slowly. "Do I know you?" She smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was one of those smiles that meant she was sure about something. "No, but I know you. I've heard about you." She stepped closer. "You're good at what you do. You have guts." Ron raised his eyebrows. "Thanks, I guess. What do you want?" She looked around quickly and then lowered her voice. "I want to join you." "On your ship?" Ron was surprised. "Join me? I don't have a crew right now. I'm leaving soon." She shook her head, her smile turning playful. "I don't want to join as a crew member. I want to join as a partner. There's a mission I need to complete. I think you can help." Ron laughed. "Look, I don't know who you are or what mission you have, but I'm not interested in any trouble." She laughed back. "Trouble? Maybe. But sometimes trouble is where the real adventure begins." Before Ron could say anything else, she suddenly sat down on his lap right there in the middle of the busy spaceport, in front of people walking by, in front of all the noise and lights. Ron blinked. He was shocked. "What are you doing?" Myra, as she had just introduced herself, shrugged. "Making a point. You said you're not interested, but actions speak louder than words." People stopped and stared. Some smiled, some looked confused. Ron could feel their eyes on him. He didn't know whether to be angry, embarrassed, or amused. He gently moved her to the side. "This is not how things work." Myra looked at him with a serious face now. "That's where you're wrong. Sometimes, you have to shake things up. You have to break the rules to get things done." Ron studied her for a moment. She was strange, but also brave. Maybe too brave for her own good. Or maybe that was exactly what he needed. "Fine," he said finally. "Tell me about this mission." Myra's eyes lit up. "It's a secret, mostly. There's a lost human colony far away in the outer reaches of space. The official groups say it's gone wiped out. But I've received a signal. A faint call for help." Ron frowned. "Why would you come to me?" "Because humans are different," she said simply. "Other species don't understand our strength, our stubbornness, our courage. They think we're reckless. But that's exactly why we survive where others fail. I need someone who believes that." Ron looked at the people walking by again, wondering what they were thinking. Then he looked back at Myra. Her eyes were full of fire, determination, and hope. He sighed. "All right. I'm listening." Myra smiled wide again, the confident smile that had first caught his attention. "Good. We leave soon." Ron nodded, already feeling the quiet excitement of a new adventure. The spaceport was still noisy and busy, but now it felt like a gateway to something bigger than just a simple cargo run. As he walked toward his ship with Myra following, Ron couldn't help but think that maybe this time, the story would be different. Maybe, just maybe, humanity would show the galaxy what it really meant to fight and survive. Ron sat in the cockpit of the Star Sparrow, running his hands over the controls as he prepared for takeoff. The hum of the ship's engines filled the small space. Outside, the busy spaceport buzzed with activity, but inside, it was quiet, just him and Myra. Myra was standing near the entrance to the cockpit, looking out the small window at the stars beginning to appear in the dark sky. Her eyes were full of focus, as if she already saw the path ahead, even though it was still unknown. "So," Ron said, breaking the silence, "tell me more about this mission. Why do you think the colony is still alive?" Myra turned to face him. "I can't be sure. But the signal I received, it was human. Weak, but clear. The kind of signal only a survivor would send." Ron raised an eyebrow. "If it's so weak, why do you think anyone would have noticed?" "The Galactic Council said the colony was lost years ago." "Because no one was looking closely enough," Myra said firmly. "The official story is convenient. They don't want to spend resources on a colony that might be beyond help. But I believe in second chances. In human grit." Ron sighed. "It sounds dangerous. What if we find nothing? What if it's a trap?" Myra smiled, a little mischievous. "Then we'll be the first humans to say, we gave it our best. Besides, you're no stranger to risk, are you?" Ron chuckled. "True enough. But I prefer smart risk over foolish ones." "That's why I came to you," Myra said, stepping closer. "You're smart. You're careful. And you're human." Ron looked at her for a long moment. She was bold, no doubt. And maybe a little reckless. But there was something about her that made him want to say yes. "Okay," he said finally. "I'll help you. But on one condition." Myra's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "What condition?" "You respect the ship and my rules," Ron said with a smile. "No surprises. No taking over the controls without asking." Myra laughed. "Deal." With that, Ron moved to the pilot's seat and powered up the ship. The controls lit up, and the Star Sparrow began to hum with energy. "Ready?" Ron asked. Myra nodded. "Always." The ship lifted off smoothly, leaving the noisy spaceport behind. As they moved into open space, the stars stretched out in front of them like a vast, glittering road. Ron looked at the navigation panel. "The colony is on the edge of known space, in a sector called Vega Reach. It's not a place many want to go." "Exactly," Myra said. "Which means it's perfect for humans." They settled into the long journey ahead. The silence between them was comfortable. Ron found himself watching Myra out of the corner of his eye. She wasn't just a passenger. She was someone with a mission, with fire in her heart. After a few hours, Myra finally spoke again. "You know, humans have a reputation here. Other species think we're reckless, dangerous, maybe even primitive." Ron smiled. "That's because they don't understand us." "Exactly." Myra's voice grew softer. "We don't give up. We don't back down. We find a way, even when the odds are against us." Ron nodded. "That's why I respect you. Most people wouldn't get involved in something like this." Myra looked at him seriously. "Because it's not just a mission. It's a test. A way to prove that humans belong out here, that we can survive and thrive no matter what." Ron felt a warmth in his chest. He had never thought of it that way, but it made sense. Maybe this mission was bigger than just one lost colony. Maybe it was about all humans. Suddenly, the ship's alert beeped softly. Ron frowned and checked the sensors. "We have a visitor." Myra walked over to him, peering at the screen. What kind? Ron's eyes narrowed. An alien patrol ship. Small, fast. Probably scanning for troublemakers. Myra smirked. Looks like the galaxy doesn't want us here. Ron took a deep breath. Let's see if they want to talk first. He opened the comm channel. This is Ron, captain of the Star Sparrow. We mean no harm. We are on a mission of peace. The reply was cold. Human vessel, you are in restricted space. Leave immediately or face consequences. Ron's jaw tightened. We are not leaving. Not until we complete our mission. Myra's eyes shone. That's the human spirit. The alien ship moved closer, scanning the Star Sparrow with bright lights. Ron knew they couldn't fight. His ship was built for trade, not battle. But humans had something the aliens did not: creativity and courage. Ron whispered, "Get ready." With a sudden burst, he pushed the throttle forward, weaving the ship through a maze of floating space debris. The alien patrol struggled to keep up. Myra laughed. You're good at this. Ron smiled, feeling alive. I told you I like smart risks. The patrol ship finally gave up and backed away, disappearing into the darkness. Ron let out a long breath. That was close. Myra stood beside him, steady and calm. And that's just the beginning. Ron looked at her. She had parked herself on his lap like she owned the place, and now she owned this moment too. He smiled. Then we better be ready. The stars outside seemed to shine a little brighter as the Star Sparrow sailed deeper into the unknown. Together, Ron and Myra were ready to face whatever came next. The Star Sparrow glided smoothly through the endless blackness of space. Ron sat in the pilot's chair, eyes focused on the navigation panel. Myra stood nearby, watching the stars stretch out like sparkling diamonds beyond the small windows. The journey to Vega Reach was long and quiet. The space between stars felt vast and empty, but both Ron and Myra knew they were heading towards something important, a mystery waiting to be solved. Ron glanced at Myra. How long until we reach the colony's last known location? Myra checked the data pad in her hands. About 3 hours. The signal was faint and irregular, so pinpointing the exact spot is difficult. Ron nodded. Still, it's something. At least it means someone or something is still out there. Myra's eyes held a mix of hope and worry. Yes. That's why this mission matters so much. If there are survivors, they need help. Ron leaned back in his chair and sighed. I never thought I'd be chasing ghosts in space. Myra smiled gently. Sometimes, chasing ghosts is how you find your true purpose. The hours passed slowly, the hum of the ship the only sound. Ron and Myra exchanged stories of their past adventures, narrow escapes, moments of courage, times when they had no choice but to keep going. Suddenly, the sensors beeped loudly. Ron sat up straight, eyes scanning the panel. Got something? Myra stepped beside him. What is it? Ron frowned. A small ship. It's damaged, drifting without power. Myra's voice grew soft. Could it be from the colony? Without hesitation, Ron altered course to intercept. We can't just pass by. Someone might need us. As they moved closer, the outline of the ship became clear. It was small, older looking, with marks of battle. The hull was scratched and scarred, but still holding together. Ron opened the comm channel. This is Ron of the Star Sparrow. We see you're damaged. Do you need assistance? Static crackled, then a weak voice came through. Help, please, survivors aboard. Vega Reach Colony. Myra's heart raced. It's them. Ron activated the docking clamps. We're coming alongside. Get ready. The docking was tense but smooth. The airlock hissed open, and Ron and Myra stepped into the dark, cramped ship. Inside, the smell of metal and dust filled the air. Lights flickered weakly. They moved carefully down the narrow corridor, following distant sounds. Suddenly, they found the survivors. A small group of humans, tired and worn but alive. Their eyes brightened with hope when they saw Ron and Myra. One of them, a middle-aged man named Sam, stepped forward. "You came for us." Myra smiled warmly. "We never give up on our own." Sam looked around nervously. "We've been hiding here for months. The aliens attacked our colony. We fought back, but they're stronger. We lost most of our ships and supplies." Ron studied the group. "How many of you are there?" 50 in total, Sam said. "Not many, but enough to survive if we can get help." Myra's face grew serious. "We need to get you off this ship and back to the Star Sparrow. Can you move?" Sam nodded slowly. "We're weak, but we can try." Ron and Myra helped the survivors board the Star Sparrow one by one. The cramped ship suddenly felt crowded, but also alive with hope. Once everyone was aboard, Ron sealed the airlocks and took a deep breath. "We have to get you all to safety." Myra turned to Ron. "The aliens might come back. We need a plan." Ron nodded. "First, we'll head to a nearby asteroid belt. It's dense with rocks and debris, perfect for hiding." Myra smiled. "Good idea. They won't find us there easily." The Star Sparrow changed course, moving toward the jagged rocks floating in space. As they approached, the survivors began to share their stories. Each one spoke of loss, fear, but also courage and hope. A young woman named Lena told Myra, "We built what we could with what we had. We believed humans don't give up. That's why we held on." Myra squeezed her hand gently. "You're right. That's what makes us strong." Ron watched the survivors, feeling a deep respect for their strength. "We'll get through this. Together." Suddenly, the ship's alarm sounded again. Ron checked the sensors. Alien patrols nearby. "They're searching." Myra looked determined. "We have to stay hidden. No mistakes." Ron piloted the Star Sparrow carefully through the asteroid belt. The rocks loomed close on all sides, but his steady hands guided the ship safely. The alien ship scanned the area but found nothing. Frustrated, they moved on. After the danger passed, Ron let out a sigh of relief. "That was close." Myra nodded. "But it showed us one thing: humans never give up, even when the odds are against them." Ron smiled. "I'm beginning to see that." The survivors began to rest, their spirits lifted by the rescue. Myra and Ron prepared the ship for the next step of the journey, bringing the colony back to safety and proving to the galaxy the true strength of humanity. As the Star Sparrow sailed deeper into Vega Reach, the stars outside seemed to shine with a new light hope. The Star Sparrow drifted quietly through the dense asteroid belt. Jagged rocks floated all around, creating a natural shield against the endless dark of space. Ron's hands were steady on the controls, weaving the ship through narrow gaps and sharp edges. Myra stood beside him, eyes sharp and alert. Inside the ship, the rescued colonists tried to rest. They were tired, but the hope in their hearts was stronger than the fear that had haunted them for months. Ron glanced at the sensor panel. "We're clear for now. No alien ships nearby." Myra nodded but didn't relax. "They'll be back. The aliens don't give up easily." Ron sighed. "Neither do humans." Suddenly, the sensors beeped again, a fast warning this time. "Multiple contacts approaching," Ron said, his voice calm but serious. Myra moved closer to the screen. "Alien patrols. They've found us." Ron's fingers flew over the controls. "We're too slow to outrun them. We have to outsmart them." Myra smiled. "That's the human way." Ron activated the ship's cloaking device. The Star Sparrow faded from the sensors and the visible light spectrum. They were invisible, but only for a little while. The alien ships moved closer, their bright lights scanning every corner of the asteroid belt. Ron held his breath as the patrols searched carefully, scanning for any sign of the Star Sparrow. Myra whispered, "Hold steady." The patrols passed dangerously close, almost touching the rocks, but they found nothing. Ron let out a slow breath. "We're lucky." Myra looked at him with a spark in her eyes. "Luck is just preparation meeting opportunity." Suddenly, a sharp warning sounded. "Warning. Cloak weakening. Energy levels low." Ron frowned. "We can't keep this up for long." Myra thought quickly. "We need a distraction." Ron nodded. "I have an idea." He reached behind his seat and grabbed a small device from his kit. It was a signal jammer, small but powerful enough to confuse sensors for a short time. Ron activated it. The ship sent out bursts of false signals, creating phantom ships and hiding their true location. The alien patrol stopped and scanned the area again, confused by the sudden signals. Myra smiled. "Good work." Ron took this chance to pilot the Star Sparrow deeper into the asteroid field, using the rocks to hide. Suddenly, the ship shook. A sharp jolt ran through the hull. "What was that?" Ron asked, checking the systems. Myra looked worried. "We hit a small rock." "Nothing serious, I hope." Ron ran the diagnostics. "Minor damage to the outer hull. Nothing critical, but we need to be careful." He steadied the ship and moved slowly, avoiding further collisions. The alien patrols grew frustrated and began to leave the area. Ron and Myra exchanged relieved glances. Once the coast was clear, Myra turned to Ron. "This mission is going to be harder than I thought." Ron smiled softly. "Nothing worth doing is ever easy." They returned to the main cabin where the survivors were gathered. Many were tired but watching closely as the ship shook and moved. One of the older survivors, a man named Harris, spoke up. "We can't keep running forever. We have to fight back." Myra nodded. "We will. But we need a plan." Ron looked around the small group. "Tell me everything about the colony. How did the aliens attack? What defenses do you have?" Sam, the middle-aged man who had greeted them before, stepped forward. "The aliens came quickly. Their ships are stronger and faster. They bombed our supply centers and cut off communication." Lena, the young woman, added, "But we built defenses. Walls, turrets, traps. Not high-tech, but enough to slow them down." Myra's eyes lit up. "That's exactly what we need. Humans are good at making the best out of what they have." Ron nodded. "I'll help you strengthen those defenses. I have some supplies and tools on board." Sam looked hopeful. "Thank you." Myra placed a hand on Ron's shoulder. "You're proving that humans don't just survive, they fight back." Ron smiled. "Together, we can make a difference." Over the next hours, they worked quickly. Ron helped the survivors prepare weapons and reinforce the ship's systems. Myra coordinated communication with nearby friendly ships, sending coded messages for help. As night fell over the asteroid belt, the Star Sparrow was no longer just a small cargo ship. It had become a beacon of hope, a center of resistance against alien hostility. Ron looked at Myra and said quietly, "You really did park yourself on my lap like you owned the place." Myra laughed softly. "Sometimes, you have to own your space if you want to make a change." Ron smiled and looked back out at the stars. "Then let's make sure the galaxy knows humans won't be pushed around." Myra nodded. "Not now. Not ever." The Star Sparrow and its crew prepared for the next challenge, facing the alien threat head-on and showing the universe the true power of human courage and unity. The Star Sparrow floated silently among the asteroids, a hidden fortress in the dark. Inside, Ron, Myra, and the survivors worked together, preparing for what they all knew was coming, a fight. Ron checked the ship's controls and systems one last time. Our repairs are holding, but we won't last long if they find us again. Myra paced, her mind racing through plans and possibilities. We need to make a stand. If we keep running, they'll keep chasing. Sam nodded. We can't run forever. It's time to defend what's left of the colony. Ron turned to Myra. You ready? She gave a confident smile. Always. The survivors gathered in the main room, a mix of tired faces and determined eyes. Ron spoke clearly. We don't have many weapons, but we have what we need: our courage and our minds. Lena, the young woman, raised her voice. We may be small, but we can fight smart. Ron felt a surge of pride. That's the spirit. Here's the plan: we'll use the asteroid field to our advantage. The aliens won't expect us to fight back here. Myra pointed to a map on the wall. We set traps along the paths they usually take. Mines, energy nets, and decoys. We lure them in, then hit hard. Sam smiled. They won't know what hit them. Ron grabbed a toolkit. Let's get to work. For hours, they prepared. Ron and Myra worked side by side, setting traps and checking weapons. The survivors helped, their tired hands steady with purpose. Finally, everything was ready. Ron sat at the controls, Myra standing behind him. The survivors were hidden in safe rooms, ready for the battle. The tension in the air was thick. Every moment felt heavy, like waiting for a storm to break. Suddenly, the sensors beeped loudly. Alien ships incoming, Ron said. Myra's eyes narrowed. This is it. Outside, the black sky filled with bright lights. Alien ships moved swiftly, scanning the asteroid field. Ron engaged the ship's shields and activated the traps. The first alien ship flew too close to an energy net. The net snapped tight, trapping the ship. Ron smiled. Got one. Myra called out, now. The traps exploded around the field, lights flashing and rocks shaking. The aliens fired back, their weapons bright and loud. The Star Sparrow shook with each hit, but the shields held. Ron maneuvered the ship quickly, dodging attacks and guiding the aliens into more traps. Inside, the survivors watched anxiously. Sam and Lena prepared to defend themselves if needed. The battle was fierce but short. The aliens were surprised by the human resistance and their clever traps. One by one, the alien ships retreated, damaged and defeated. Ron let out a breath. We did it. Myra smiled proudly. They won't underestimate us again. The survivors cheered softly, relief spreading through the small group. Ron looked at Myra. You really know how to shake things up. She laughed. Sometimes, you have to park yourself where it matters. Ron shook his head with a smile. Glad you did. As the stars outside returned to their quiet glow, the Star Sparrow and its crew prepared for the next challenge. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. Myra turned to Ron, her eyes serious. This is just the beginning. The galaxy will hear about us soon. Ron nodded. Let's make sure they know who we are. Humans. Fighters. Survivors. Together, they faced the future not just as partners, but as a team ready to protect what they believed in. The Star Sparrow floated quietly in the shadow of a large asteroid. The damage from the recent battle was still fresh, but the ship held strong. Inside, the survivors moved about, their energy slowly returning. Ron and Myra were busy planning the next steps. We can't stay here too long, Ron said, looking at the navigation screen. The aliens will send more ships. We need allies. Myra nodded thoughtfully. I've been sending out coded messages to nearby systems. Some might answer. Ron looked at her with hope. Do you think they will come? They have to, Myra said firmly. We're not the only ones tired of alien control. Just then, the ship's comm system beeped. Ron answered quickly. This is Ron. A calm voice came through. This is Captain Dara of the Falcon Star. We received your message. We're on our way. Myra's eyes lit up. Finally, help. Ron smiled. Tell them we're ready. The survivors gathered around the communication console, their faces hopeful but wary. Who are they? Asked Sam. Friendly traders, Myra explained. They have experience fighting alien patrols. Ron nodded. We'll need every friend we can get. Hours passed as they waited. Then, on the radar, a small fleet appeared, ship sleek and fast, moving with purpose. Ron and Myra guided the Star Sparrow out of hiding to meet the newcomers. Captain Dara's ship came alongside smoothly. Ron opened the airlock. Dara, a tall woman with sharp eyes, stepped aboard. We're here to help, Dara said simply. Myra smiled. Good. We need to share information and plan. In the meeting room, the group gathered. Dara brought news from other colonies and systems resisting the alien threat. The aliens are pushing hard, Dara said. But we've learned their weaknesses. Ron leaned forward. Tell us. Dara explained. Their ships are strong but slow to repair. They rely on control centers hidden in asteroid bases. If we can find and destroy those, we can break their hold. Myra's eyes sparkled. A strike at their heart. I like it. Sam nodded. It's risky, but it might work. Ron looked around. We need to prepare carefully. The new allies shared weapons, supplies, and skills. The survivors learned to work together with the Falcon Star crew, their hope growing stronger. Ron and Myra spent hours studying maps and planning the attack. This won't be easy, Ron said. But it's our best chance. Myra placed her hand on his arm. We're not alone anymore. Days passed in quiet preparation. The survivors trained, fixed their ships, and built stronger defenses. Finally, the time came. The combined fleet moved out, slipping through space toward the asteroid bases. Ron's hands were steady on the controls, Myra at his side, her eyes sharp. As they approached, sensors picked up enemy ships guarding the base. Dara ordered, prepare for battle. The Star Sparrow and the fleet dived into action. Laser beams flashed and engines roared. The asteroid field became a battlefield. Ron piloted skillfully, dodging fire and guiding the fleet. Myra coordinated communications, keeping everyone connected. The battle was fierce. The enemy fought hard to protect their bases. But the combined force was stronger. Using the traps they had prepared, the humans and their allies slowly gained ground. Finally, they reached the control center. Ron and Myra led a small team to board the base. Inside, the corridors were dark and tense. They moved quickly, disabling systems and planting explosives. The countdown began. Outside, the fleet fought off the remaining patrol ships. With a loud explosion, the control center was destroyed. The asteroid shook, and the enemy ships lost power and control. The alien fleet retreated. Ron smiled, breathing hard. We did it. Myra looked around at the team. This is just the start of freedom. Dara nodded. The galaxy will remember today. Back on the Star Sparrow, the survivors cheered softly. Ron looked at Myra, feeling a new strength between them. We're building something bigger, he said. Myra smiled. A future where humans and friends can live free. The stars outside seemed to shine brighter as hope grew among the darkness. Together, they were ready to face whatever came next. The Star Sparrow floated peacefully in space, the battle scars of past struggles still visible but fading. The survivors, once weary and afraid, now moved with quiet strength. Ron and Myra stood side by side on the bridge, watching the stars twinkle beyond the windows. The galaxy was changing. Thanks to their courage, and the help of new allies, the alien control over Vega Reach had been broken. The colony was free to rebuild, and other systems inspired by their success were beginning to rise. Ron turned to Myra, a gentle smile on his face. "We made it through. I never thought we would." Myra laughed softly. "Neither did I. But sometimes, people surprise you." Ron nodded. "You surprised me most of all." Myra looked up at him, her eyes shining. "I told you I'd park myself where it mattered." Ron shook his head, still smiling. "And I'm glad you did." The survivors gathered in the main hall, sharing stories of hope and plans for the future. Sam spoke to the group, his voice strong. "We faced darkness together and came out stronger. This is our home again." Lena, the young woman, added, "We'll rebuild with new ideas and new friends." Ron watched them, feeling a deep sense of pride. "This is just the beginning." Myra joined him on the bridge. "The galaxy is wide, and there are still challenges ahead." Ron agreed. "But now we have a team, a family." Suddenly, the ship's comm beeped. Ron answered. "This is Ron." A friendly voice came through. "This is Captain Dara. Our fleets have begun organizing peace talks across the region. Your bravery inspired many." Myra smiled. "That's good news." Ron nodded. "It's time to turn battles into peace." Myra looked at Ron. "What will you do next?" Ron thought for a moment. "I want to help build that future. With you." Myra's smile grew. "I want that too." They stood quietly, watching the stars pass by. In the months that followed, the star sparrow became a symbol of hope. Ron, Myra, and the survivors helped unite systems, sharing stories of courage and teaching others how to defend their homes. Together, they built a new future not just for themselves, but for everyone willing to stand up and fight for freedom. One evening, as the ship drifted near a peaceful planet, Myra sat beside Ron. She leaned on his shoulder and whispered, "You were right. Sometimes, you have to own your space to change the world." Ron took her hand gently. "And sometimes, having the right person beside you makes all the difference." The stars shone brightly outside, a reminder that even in the darkest places, light could always find a way. The story of the Star Sparrow was no longer just about survival. It was about courage, unity, and hope. And as they looked toward the future, Ron and Myra knew one thing for sure: together, they could face anything.